Hello, welcome to another episode of Your World. This week host with me, Adrian Arikusumo. And for the next 30 minutes, I will be giving you this week's news highlights from around the world. And now, let's start from our first segment with some updates from United Nations on the Summit of the Future. Let's take a look.
Excellencies, dear friends, I must start by the women and girls of Afghanistan face a deep crisis of gender-based discrimination and oppression. The new law, enacted last month, formalized the systematic erasure of women and girls from public life. Afghan women and girls are largely confined to their homes, with no freedom of movement and almost no access to education or work. Extreme gender-based discrimination is not only a systematic abuse of women and girls and the violation of human rights conventions and laws. It is a self-harm on a national scale. It completely undermines the de facto authority's stated objective of economic self-reliance. Educating girls is one of the fastest ways to kickstart economic development and improve the health, well-being and prosperity of communities and the entire societies. Without educated women, without women in employment, including in leadership roles, and without recognizing the rights and freedoms of one half of its population, Afghanistan will never take its rightful place on the global stage. Countries and organizations around the world, including the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, have called strongly for respect for the fundamental rights of Afghan girls and women. I join them in demanding that the de facto authorities remove all discriminatory restrictions against women and girls immediately and reopen schools and universities to girls beyond grade 6.
The way that this culture and this society has been upended is a cautionary tale for the rest of the world. In the 70s, most of the civil servants were women, over half the teachers, doctors. There were women jurists, lawyers, in every profession. And then the world upended. And today, in Kabul, a female cat has more freedoms than a woman. A cat may go sit on her front stoop and feel the sun on her face. She may chase a squirrel into the park. A squirrel has more rights than a girl in Afghanistan today because the public parks have been closed to women and girls by the Taliban. A bird may sing in Kabul, but a girl may not, and a woman may not in public. This is extraordinary. This is a suppression of the natural law.
It's a government of Taliban, by Taliban, for Taliban in Afghanistan. Nobody else is part of that. So it's not only women who are affected, it's the men who are affected. We are a bit disappointed for the fact that men do not stand to the extent that they should in our support. But it's a very difficult situation, and there are unrest, extrajudiciary killing, arbitrary detention of people, people are enforced disappeared. So we understand the situation, but I think those fathers, those brothers, and those husbands who were coming to us as their representative in the last 20 years, we want to see them now in solidarity, in action. We want them to help us reclaim our country.
This fight is not only Afghan women's fight. This should be a global fight against terrorism, against extremism. Because nowadays, in Afghanistan, the level of extremism that growing up, it will not remain only for Afghanistan, but it will go to the neighboring countries and also to the world. So this is a joint effort and joint responsibility, and it should be a joint fight.
The Assembly of the Asian Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions was inaugurated by India's President Draupadi Murmu in Delhi on Tuesday. The Supreme Audit Institutions of India assumes the chairmanship of ASSOSAI for the period 2024 to 2027. The four-day conference will be followed by a series of discussions on the evolving role of Supreme Audit Institutions in fostering transparency and accountability. The Assembly witnessed the participation from more than 200 delegates representing 42 countries and international organizations, underscoring the diverse and collaborative nature of ASSOSAI. She further congratulated Supreme Audit Institutions of India for assuming the chairmanship of ASSOSAI for the period 2024 to 2027. She expressed confidence that under the able stewardship of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India or CAG, ASSOSAI will reach new heights, fostering greater cooperation and innovation among the members.
Up next, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University has developed an environmentally friendly cooling coating for roofs and walls that can reduce temperatures up to 25 degrees Celsius. This and more only on Your World. Living with new breath is what patients express after receiving lung transplants from donors at the Central Lung Hospital. Currently, Vietnam has performed more than 10 lung transplants, of which only 3 transplants performed at the Central Lung Hospital were successful. It had been more than 4 years since the lung transplant. Toai's life has changed significantly. He said at that time his lungs were 80% damaged, and if he did not have a transplant, he would only live for a few months. This was also the first lung transplant performed by National Lung Hospital from a brain-dead donor. Lung transplantation is the most difficult technique in the field of organ transplantation, requiring strict coordination of all departments, donor lung preparation procedures, transplant surgery, post-transplant care, and resuscitation using advanced techniques. The success of the first lung transplant has motivated the medical team at the National Lung Hospital to continue performing transplants. It is worth noting that each following surgeries is more complicated than the previous one. This 39-year-old female patient has had the transplant for 3 months. During those 3 months, the doctors and patients experienced life and death moments when they discovered that the patient had pancreatitis, hepatitis, and a kidney tumor. However, with their efforts and experience in lung transplants, the patient has gradually recovered.
While these landscapes are disparate, different topography, plants, and traditional customs, they share something that's bringing their residents together. From far northwestern Australia, the Philippines, and Malaita province in Solomon Islands, these activists have seen the impact of climate change firsthand and have come together to Talanoa and take their message to Australia's politicians.
How have your communities been impacted by climate change?
I'm from the Philippines. We experienced Super Typhoon Haiyan in 2013 and Super Typhoon Rai in 2021. So in Super Typhoon Rai, I lost my home. I became an internally displaced person, and also we didn't have electricity for 3 months. So I spent like 2 Christmases without electricity. It's very disorienting. You want to help, but you're also struggling on your own, and you're also processing trauma.
Peter and Ed are both from Western Australia's Kimberley region.
It's been really hot up north, and it's the other day 49 degrees, so that's not normal. We've only had 3 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks of nice cold weather.
The members of the community were worried that their knowledge that they had for a generation was no longer actually adaptable to this to what's currently happening in the communities, and they can't pass on that knowledge to the next generation. First Nation people, they've been fighting this fight before. It was called climate change. This is just us caring for the country like we have for thousands of years.
No, thank you guys, thank you all for sharing.
Afterward, Alice sat down with Tanya Afu, who's here from Solomon Islands.
This is not just something that is happening to our islands. This is something that is threatening the lives of the people who have contributed nothing to the climate crisis. I come from one of the frontline communities in the northern part of Malaita province, and one of the things that I've witnessed is the increasing sea level rise. I've seen how it has destroyed some of my family members' houses. It has flooded the village when we have high tides. From my island, the only means of transportation to the mainland is by canoe. So the gardens, schools, access to services is located in the mainland. So when we have, this heavy rainfall, prolonged rainfall, storms, it's not safe for the women to go to the mainland.
A few days later, Tanya and the others took their message to Parliament.
2 of the key messages that I am here to advocate for is supporting the Loss and Damage Fund, because Australia also supported the establishment of this fund. However, no money has been put into the fund yet. With COP31 going to be held here in Australia, I feel like Australia should step up, not only to protect the future generations of the people in the Pacific and Solomon Islands, but also here in Australia as well.
We still have more news from around the world. The Indian Embassy in Kathmandu, collaborating with Nepal Academy of Fine Arts, which later then started an art exhibition titled Ramayan Resonance, celebrating a shared heritage. Stay with us for more stories. Nepal's Minister of Culture, Badri Prasad Pandey, and Ambassador of India to Nepal, Navin Srivastava, jointly inaugurated art exhibition on Ramayan Resonance in Nepal. The Indian Embassy in Kathmandu, in collaboration with Nepal Academy of Fine Arts, has started an art exhibition, Ramayan Resonance, celebrating a shared heritage from Monday. The exhibition was inaugurated by the Nepal's Minister of Culture, Badri Prasad Pandey, and Ambassador of India to Nepal, Navin Srivastava. The Chancellor of Nepal Academy of Fine Arts, Naratmani Hartamchali, and Deputy Director General of Indian Council for Cultural Relations Anju Ranjan also graced the event alongside the renowned Nepali artists and art lovers. The exhibition is scheduled to go on from 23rd to 30th September. Morocco celebrates annual Tanjas Festival. Held annually since 2000, Tanjas is a 4-day music festival celebrating jazz and all jazz-related styles of music. The festival consists of indoor and outdoor performances and activities across Tangier, Morocco. This past weekend, from 19 to 22nd of September, the streets and theaters of the city were filled with a vast diversity of jazz musics, from the traditional African genres that influenced jazz dating back to the 11th century to jazz-infused electronic or techno mixes. On stage, you would see and hear the fusion of folk, classical, and modern instruments, melodies, and rhythms. Off the stage, you will find a pop-up markets and swing dance classes accompanied by live bands.
Before the two giant pandas arrived in Hong Kong, later this week, fans from the city visited their home in Sichuan. Sichuan, the home of the giant panda. Tourists from around the globe are flocking in to see these adorable creatures. The China Giant Panda Protection and Research Center has established 4 major bases in Sichuan. The one we are at now is located in Dujiangyan, which has received over 1 million visitors since 2014, including the one in Wolong. The Dujiangyan Panda Base is permanently open for free to residents of Hong Kong.
A curious and bold bird with what seems like a bottomless appetite.
Pesto gets fed approximately 4 times a day. Each feed is about 8 fish. He's often first to greet us in the morning and come wandering over chirping at us for some breakfast.
When Pesto hatched 9 months ago, he weighed 200 grams. Now he's 22.5 kilograms. And with his 12-kilogram dad in front, Junior clearly dwarfs him and every other bird here.
He's almost double their size. He's definitely on the upper percentile in terms of king penguin chicks.
King penguin chicks need to stack on weight early to survive sub-zero temperatures and are not yet waterproof. But Pesto is especially large because of genetics.
He definitely comes from a family of big babies.
The penguins seem unaware of the fuss, but the aquarium is warning visitors to be careful.
If we do have people banging on the acrylic, using flash photography, or trying to make a penguin follow their finger, that's really not wanted behaviour, as that can stress them out.
There are about 60 penguins in this exhibition right now, but Pesto is the only chick. So he's not only super famous outside, he's very important in here. So in many ways, it's his kingdom for now. It is nesting and breeding season, so hopefully more chicks will hatch in Melbourne. And in a few months, Pesto himself will get a summer body.
Pesto is healthy. We're not concerned about his weight at all. He is a chunky monkey, but once those baby feathers come off, he'll shrink like a balloon and he will be slender and beautiful and ready to take his first dip in the pool.
Or perhaps a giant splash. Iskandar Razak, ABC News, Melbourne.
We hope you enjoyed for today's episode of Your World. I'm Adrian Erikusomo. Thanks for watching. See you next week.